Welcome to Melt. I'm Suresh Venkat. We come to you today from the newly built Havas Village in Mumbai, the headquarters of the Havas Group in India. The agency has been in the news over the last few months thanks to new accounts, new leaders, new acquisitions, and new departments. To know more, we are in conversation with Rana Barua, Group CEO, Havas India. What was the strategy that enabled this growth, and what are the plans for the future? Let's find out as we get ready to melt with Rana Barua. Rana Barua, welcome to Melt. It's been 5 years at the helm, the group has grown, there have been acquisitions, talent has joined, talent has left. Havas is in the media for all the right reasons. What do you attribute this change in perception to?
First of all, thank you for getting me on the show. I think we've been planning this for a while. So, yeah, I think it's been quite a journey. And honestly, when you look back, and I'll be completing 5 years in a few months, it's actually been very simply, we've gone back to basics. When the brief was given to restage the brand, which was the Havas Group in the country, there were a few expectations from the chairman, Yannick Bolloré, that this is, some certain mandates that were discussed with me and what we could do. But I thought that, very simply put, you need to get the product right, So I actually went back to our marketing, the way you would market a product or a brand. So imagine if you create Havas, the brand in the country, and you were kind of relaunching a brand, you would have to get the product right. You needed to figure out what positioning you will do with the product.
The classic 4 Ps?
The classic 4 Ps. Absolutely. Okay. Bang on, Suresh. So what we did was we first got the product right. It was a hard task because you were getting a product right in a very aggressive and competitive industry. You had to get the right positioning, which means a lot of discussions, vision thinking, plans of how to get the positioning right, because many of them had already were there or had got created. And third, you would have to get the right people. Mm-hmm. So you went out and got the right people to kind of help. And I thought the fourth, which really helped, was, a mix of both perception and married with performance. Why do I say that? Is because perception needed to be built. Ours is a lot of perception. They say that, perception is the mother of all reality, right? So for you, it was very clear that how would you, ensure that the world outside was perceiving you for the right reasons and not necessarily for a lot of noise. And then you start performing to ensure that the 4 Ps add the fifth one, which is performance.
Performance and people and perception. You're adding many more Ps to the classic.
And then, and I'll give you one more. That's called process.
Okay.
If you see all these modules, we actually put a lot of in place. And I'll say the journey has begun because there is a lot to be done yet. But are we in a place where a lot of satisfaction is there or a lot of appreciation is there? Yes.
And we are, of course, in your fantastic new office.
Thank you.
And I just took a sneak peek from your cabin. It looks like you have a view of Central Park in New York.
Yeah, if you see the left side, that's the Central Park. If you see the right side, we'll have a separate discussion.
We have the Western Express Highway.
In
the city of Mumbai.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. On a more serious note, Rana, the Havas Village philosophy of having one integrated agency. Agencies keep going through this sort of shift. Let's do integrate, let's separate, let's integrate, let's separate. You are currently a fully integrated agency.
Absolutely.
Take us through the SWOT analysis of
so
doing
I'll tell you, simply put, the good news about an integration model is that, this was actually done by Yannick many years back because he realized the concept of a village model. What is a village? Village is where everybody kind of sits together, stays together, works together. You kind of share your joys and sorrows together. So for us, that model was very clear that you had to build that. And that was one of the clear briefs. Like when I started, I told you that one of the clear briefs was, what is the vision for India would be, you can't be a separate one agency or two or three. You needed to build a model of integration and village. Mm-hmm. And we are very true to it. So you may have one person sitting at the top, but we have various companies, various CEOs, all working together in a very cohesive way. We meet very regularly. We know each other's challenges and problems and concerns. It will take time to bear fruit because, like you said, that the industry's got used to a certain way of working. We are kind of rechanging or reformatting certain of those habits.
But by not having a specialized unit, for instance, healthcare, I understand is it's such a specialized vertical that many agencies have a separate sub-agency. Do you feel you'd miss out on clients or business in that
Not
domain?
At all, because you know why? Because the way it's structured for us specifically, it is a creative group, a media group, and a health group. So, we have a common CEO in the creative and media group, Donna, out of New York. So then what happens is if you have a common CEO, a lot of us work very, in a very, without any hassles or problems across the group. And then you have the media group, which is also, there's a gentleman called Peter Mayes, based out of New York. So again, these two coming together, and I actually report directly to both of them. So it makes it simpler to work together across the group and the agencies.
What about having one combined P&L for all these agencies?
So
what are the challenges there?
Clearly put, it's actually clearly the way the P&L works out is that you have a India P&L, but in India, what we do is that we have a creative group P&L and a media P&L, and I manage both. When I submit my numbers, then it becomes naturally one P&L. Actually, it's much better to manage a single P&L versus a fragmented P&L. So I don't see it as a challenge because you actually consolidate numbers and consolidate people and talent in a far better way. I'll give you a simple example. We've just introduced a mobility program. Now imagine what's a mobility program. Sounds very simple. Other groups can also be doing it or maybe doing it, I don't know. But if you are part of a single P&L and you know that there is a lot of talent, ours is a talent business, right? So I've got close to 1,400 people right now. Anybody from the media group can move to a creative group can move to a health group can move. And there are many such movements happening as of now and at very senior levels. So a one P&L allows you to manage costs. One P&L allows you to manage resources. One P&L allows you to manage offices like this. One P&L allows you to manage any expenses, travel. So you can see
competing brands though. How within one agency, how do you handle competing brands?
Now that's where the fun starts. Why does the fun start there? The fun starts because individual agencies then become fragmented when they're managing clients. So it's like best alone, better together, right? So if you have a health agency, which is now going to manage a client, and you don't need a media support, don't need digital support, don't need creative support, then it goes and signs off the client on its own, which means creative is open to sign a conflict client, which means media is open to a conflict client. Unless and of course somebody's joining all forces together, which is where the power of integration comes in, then you block off competing brands.
Best alone, better together.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that line.
Yeah.
Let's talk about rapid growth. 3 to 15 specialist verticals, including acquisitions. Tell us a little bit about what it takes to manage this kind of sudden growth.
Like I said, I started the thing that there was a vision clearly that you were going to build the Havas brand and business via acquisitions and via expansion. So that was a clear brief. So initially, when we started the journey, it was a bit difficult because remember the 4 or 5 Ps I was talking to you about, there was no product, there was no perception. So you were actually hard selling a lot of these conversations to any acquisition agencies or people you wanted to come on stable to say, this is my plan, this is my vision, this is everything. But when you look at it now after 5 years and you knew exactly where you wanted to go. So we had a few successful acquisitions when we came in. And then I stopped the process for the last few years. Of course, COVID also happened and we had to relook at the entire model and everything. Now, after 4 or 5 years, now we know where the gaps are. So now you know that what are the places that you want to build around the creative group or the media group or the health group. And then these conversations become easier because you've got a very good perception going in the market, a positive perception or a very, very strong perception of saying that these guys are doing something right. They have a plan. So now when we go out and speak to agencies where we know there are need gaps, those agencies are actually coming on the table and want to know more. They want to discuss more.
So are you in effect giving us a sneak peek of the future acquisitions that you're going to be making? Is this breaking news right now?
Never ever.
Okay.
What I can definitely tell you, and there's no, it doesn't need any kind of really, deep diving or breaking news is that, if you know the gaps, for example, if I just tell you that where are the clear gaps for me, I would definitely have a gap in, let's say, the world of communications and PR. I would definitely have a gap in performance marketing. I definitely have gaps in consumer experience, which is CX, or maybe a hardwired, B2C digital agency, the way things are, like the point that you were saying. Individually, you may be very strong, but you need these expertise because the client is asking for it. So we know where the gaps are, but like I told you, there was a gap I had taken because you were building a product. Those products needed time to build. And now you start your second round of conversations in the market.
Speaking of integration, let's talk about Havas Play. You've brought together sports, entertainment, and content under one bucket.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the rationale behind this.
So it's a global brand. So it's actually started by Havas Paris and France, and it's a very successful brand out there because naturally that those guys have naturally been playing this conversation much ahead, and that's our headquarters and all. So something when we realized that we had brought in a brand called Cake into the country, which was specialized division for more for sports and entertainment. And when globally the conversation started that, we want to roll out Havas Play across most of the markets, I think I was one of the first ones to put my hands up to say that this is something which this market wants. And we should get all three together, which is sports, entertainment, and content together. Now, it's the power of three under one brand called Havas Play. And it should be marketable and saleable. So it cannot be just one conversation where I go to a client and generally have a discussion and say, you know what, I've got 4 or 5 ideas. Because remember, what are we discussing? We're discussing hardcore ideas or IPs in these 3 divisions. They need to be sold also. So what they did was we got in Havas Play, and it's now part of Havas Media Group. And it started to, a lot of conversations are going on there.
And what do you see as the mandate for Havas Play in India specifically with Indian
mandate.
clients?
It's a big mandate. It's a big mandate because globally the way it's been now planned is that if you've got a core media business and now you have a diversified service of Havas Play, I think they've got very strong ambitions of both growth and IPs. I see a lot of conversations on IPs coming out. Definitely from Havas Play.
And during the last 5 years, Rana, you've brought in a lot of new talent, the latest of which is Tarun Jha, CEO of Havas Creative India. Tell us a little bit about your vision in terms of people for the company.
Ours is definitely a people business, which you'll agree, right? So I think that if you don't get the best talent and you compromise on that, then you're shortchanging yourself, because there's no point in trying to get okay talent on an average talent. So I think for us, I've been one of the biggest advocates of surrounding oneself with the best of talent in any division, whether it's marketing, whether it's, HR, whether it's finance. And the way we build this is just by going and getting the best talent. We don't need to hard sell anymore. Like I said, when we started the journey, it was a lot of hard selling.
Okay.
Now they're asking questions.
Okay.
What's the plans? What is integration? The same way you're asking, the same way Tarun asked me question that I'm very excited with this village model. Are you serious about integration? Are you guys seriously talking that you can, flow information from media to creative to health?
Mm-hmm.
I said, join and you'll see it for effect. He's been here for now 4 months. He's saying it's absolutely fantastic how things are working.
And Rana, in your view, what sets Havas Creative apart from other agencies?
That's a tough one because, it's very new when I see it, because we've just started putting things together. But if I see it as a unit, I think Havas Creative has the strengths of, 4 or 5 divisions working together. So you've got the mainline creative unit, you've got the strength of CX, you've got content design working together with it, which is the branding and design unit. Then you've got certain new things that we are launching again next month. Then if I add Showbiz, which is an experiential marketing agency, then I add a UX UI agency, which is Think Design. You see the strength of a creative group. So I'm not talking about just a 60 seconds ad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about just a print ad.
Mm-hmm.
So when Tarun walks out and speaks to a client, he's actually talking about 6 or 7 strong expertise, which he can bring on the table to any client. And that's the change that we are doing.
You have 15 agencies as part of the group, from everything from advertising to digital to programmatic, media, and more. What's the secret to making sure that all these 15, and some of them are acquisitions,
Sure.
not easy to integrate within Havas culture.
Yeah.
It's not an automatic thing. What's the secret to making all these parts work like one synchronized machine?
Honestly, it is extremely difficult to get so many agencies to work together. I'm still learning. And I'll be honest with you.
Especially the acquisitions.
Especially the acquisitions. In fact, sometimes the acquisitions fit in better.
Oh, then the
because
agencies.
The acquisitions know why they joined Havas.
Okay.
The professionals are still trying to figure out why am I here.
Okay.
So they actually are the better or the more challenging egos that you're managing,
Okay.
to make them understand that, listen, you need to go beyond your vertical. You need to look at the group as per se. I think for me, the most exciting bit was that it wasn't here to prove yourself as a creative person or as a media person.
Mm-hmm.
It was to say, can I build a business which can take on so many more verticals? So it is a challenge, but I think what we have done is where, if you remember, initially I said process, so some of these words actually help. If you start putting systematic meetings, if you start putting systematic conversations, if you start putting business reviews, if you start putting things which are somehow in the beginning will seem as if you're pushing it down everybody's
Especially to the creative gang. They're like,
exactly.
What is this process?
Why do I have to have a monthly catch-up? Why do I need to have... So we have a program called Route 66. It's based on the entire highway in the US, right? So Route 66 is basically an integration model or a tool by which where we all work together and we discuss whatever is happening globally. So then what happens is every month or every alternate month, the report comes in saying, say, let's say US is doing phenomenally well, France is doing well, Spain is doing well, and then India has started climbing the charts.
Mm-hmm.
India was in the 20, then it came into 14, then 12, and then we are struggling around in 7 and 8. It's also because the value of, the dollar is very different, and then ours is different. But we've broken into the top 10 as a integration agency, which is contributing to the globe.
And if I were running a small, let's say a CX agency or a UI UX agency, what is my biggest advantage in being acquired by Havas?
Let's be very straightforward. We are a smaller network,
Mm-hmm.
which naturally allows you a lot more of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
gives you more speed and agility,
Mhm.
and also flexibility. So you will not have hardwired rules like many other larger networks. So
Mhm.
what happens to a lot of these group companies is that they remain very autonomous when they join us,
Mhm.
because remember, it's led by an entrepreneur. So Yannick's entire family, it's an entrepreneur-led thing, and he keeps saying
So they
it.
understand the DNA of other
Absolutely,
entrepreneurs.
absolutely. So he, the only reason why I enjoy it is because he's allowed people like me to behave like an entrepreneur, though I work as a professional,
Mhm.
take risks, try expansion plans, do this, do that. Some things may work, some things may not work. So for even, but the reason why I now enjoy a conversation with many such acquisition agencies, because they realize that you can be part of a group and still be part of a global network. That's the advantage of Havas. It's smaller, it's faster, and it takes decisions much quicker.
And with the economy growing at 6% plus, clearly opportunities abound.
Well, for me, the big opportunity is the Vivendi Group, which is where we belong. Havas is not listed independently, it's listed under Vivendi. So Vivendi is the group. I think that's a big opportunity for us. Many conversations happening is, and if you look at the entire Vivendi spectrum that they have, which is massive, which is both in film, content, sports, entertainment, that's something which is very big for us. I think for us as a second opportunity would be that, there's a lot more spaces that we have to go in. And because we work very closely with the global group, we are among the 4 or 5 top markets, which is called the lighthouse markets. So what has happened is over the last few years, especially in the last year, we are part of a global OPCO committee. You're part of every decision, what's happening. And post-COVID, we can see a lot more, changes of the way India is working and behaving, which is actually helping us.
Mhm.
So it's like, it's a lot more places that we can go.
And it's one of those changes that everybody's come back to work in this beautiful office
Absolutely.
of yours.
Yeah. So it's like full-time working for everybody now. And I think that's a big advantage India has.
Okay.
Unlike let's say many of our offices, we keep hearing stories that people don't want to come back. It's the opposite here.
You've made multiple references to people in the conversation so far. Let's talk about talent.
Yeah.
Advertising was always this cool profession that paid well. You
Yeah.
had fun. You got
Yeah.
worked on fun brands. Has agency remuneration come down significantly in the last few years? Is that a challenge?
It has. I'll tell you why. I think it's extremely serious and pertinent question. And, I'm part of most of the associations and we keep talking about it. I think it's something that we've dug it up ourselves,
Mhm.
in the quest of, earning profits and revenues. Ours is a service business, right? End of the day, we call it ideas business, but we are like, I was explaining to somebody as an analogy that consider me as a restaurant that you come visiting. You want to meet the head chef. You want to know how I display the food. You want to see the ambience and the environment. It is, after all, a service business. And finally, the idea comes out. It's like you see a great food and you say, wow, what a lovely dish is this? That's the ad, right? So I think what we've done is that in the middle, in the quest, when the disintegration happened, when, agencies went separate, creative went separate, media went separate, we started chasing costs and we started chasing profits. We let go of a lot of talent where it was being attractive. If you just go back, there was such great talent which was coming from some of the institutes. It's not like talent is not walking in, but I don't think we are addressing the issue of, are we paying them the best of money and what can we do? So I think that's one of the big challenges, if you had to ask me from the industry perspective, that we are going to address.
So there's big tech, big consulting, all sorts of people are taking this talent
100%.
away. So what is your strategy to bring the talent back? Because in your time, you've hired a lot of top talent at Havas. So what is the strategy for hiring good talent?
Interesting. See, we have programs, right? Like any other network, you will have your program. So we have a program called Spark, which we have launched. Our third Spark 3 is coming in, which is for talent absolutely at a base level. And then we have various talent programs, which we do, for leadership programs for people to either get attracted or stay or whatever. I think what you need to address very clearly is, and I think that's, at least I'm trying my best to attempt on that bit, is that you need to be very clear that there is a job, there is a profile, years of experience, and what that person should pay. Don't look at words like benchmarking, industry level conversation, because the industry has been created by us only. But if you see what is the expectation, which is, I'm not saying superhuman expectations, but if if somebody's got 8-10 years of experience, person is going to work at a certain level, then you need to be very clear what kind of salary that person should get for that person to deliver, and start being honest about it.
And it's not just about the salary, right?
No, not at all.
How do you address the non-monetary expectations of your talent? You made a reference to egos, for instance.
Exactly. So what you need to be very clear about is you need to surround yourself with people who are going to contribute and value add. So you need to be very picky about the people you're getting. And you need to be very frank and straightforward. And I'm telling you out very openly that you got a black sheep, you got to remove the black sheep. You cannot have, just because that black sheep is superhuman, super talented, super bright.
Now, what happens if that black sheep is
You
super
need to let
talented
go.
and bring in business?
You need to let go.
At no cost will you keep
No.
that black sheep
No.
at the cost
No,
of the
no,
organization?
because culture and organization first over anybody. Because you know for a fact, and it's the old adage, right? A rotten apple is going to spoil the other. So it is a problem. So
many companies actually encourage the rotten apple because either the person is profitable or
it
creative.
doesn't matter. I'm saying that, and
So you have a
we are very
ruthless
clear.
approach to
So
this.
ours is a zero tolerance for not any other reason also. So if you're going to have an inflated ego, this is not your place.
Okay, that's pretty upfront. I've not heard too many CEOs say that.
Yeah.
Okay, Rana, you're also part of several industry bodies.
Yeah.
So what's the one thing that the industry should be paying attention to but isn't?
I think one is talent, which you touched upon.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the industry bodies had to come together, and a lot of these agencies which are part of these industries really take it seriously, that you need to build back the talent and you need to go back to the best colleges. It can be any. I'm not talking about the top tier 1, 2, 3. We're not talking. If you want the best of creative, it has to be from a certain school of art. If it is content, it has to be somewhere. I'm just saying that that's something that the industry has to address. It cannot be one agency trying to behave in a certain way or somebody, because every time, I'm trying to create something, somebody's breaking it.
Mm-hmm.
If everybody's talking about India, growth, everything, why are you going to be one industry which will stand out by saying, hey, you know what, there's a talent in? But others are not saying it. Everybody else is saying there's so much talent in India. In fact, Indian talent is getting exported.
It's an odd conundrum.
It's a dichotomy. It's like a weird statement. So I think the industry needs to face it. I think the second one, which is very important, and I really want to voice it, is that you need to be very clear how we are positioning ourselves in front of clients and what are we asking from them. The question that you ask about fees, I think people need to address it very sharply. You cannot let procurement manage expectations of agencies.
Isn't it strange that procurement was supposed to procure commodities and now they're procuring things like agencies?
It's procuring talent. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine? That's my challenge.
Commoditizing talent.
Sometimes I sit in a meeting and I hear that procurement has been asking this and all, and I wonder, how does procurement understand? Why is that agency put
on your client hat? What would you do if you were in the client shoes?
I'm going to definitely I'm saying let procurement do a job like all of us. Do I do a HR's job? Do I do a CFO's job? No, I don't. My point is, I have a point of view. Marketing people need to come in and sit in these conversations to understand if you're getting the right agency, you're going to get the right amount of talent, because then that agency will get you the best talent. To get that best talent, the agency will have to hire well, pay well. So you can see it's like one cycle. It's a conundrum. It's like the well is very deep. If you go deeper, we are going to probably all get sunk in. We still have time to fix it.
Okay, Rana, final question for you. What's the last thing you asked ChatGPT?
I'm a human. Okay, so I live by instinct, emotion, laughter, smiles and all. But yeah, so to be honest with you, I did ask ChatGPT a question, and that kind of convinced me that AI is never going to replace us. I said, why do you exist?
Okay.
So ChatGPT gave me an answer which kept going on and on and on and on and on. And I was laughing.
Okay.
Because it couldn't convince the human which asked that question that why does ChatGPT exist? Mm-hmm. If you ever hear stuff like, will AI replace creativity? Will AI replace humans? Please tell that person that, there's a door where that person can exit from.
All right, Rana Barua.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for talking to us at Melt.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And with that, it's a wrap on this episode. You can follow Melt on social media. The handle is Ready to Melt, or simply log on to readytomelt.com. If you'd like to follow me, it's @Suvenk on Twitter. Till next week, au revoir, and thanks for watching.